The Mandalorian Chapter 2 The Child. While returning to his ship on foot with the child in tow, the Mandalorian is ambushed by a trio of Trandoshan warriors. He disintegrates one attempting to rush and kill the baby, revealing a tracking fob and that the Trandoshans were actually in fact bounty hunters. Upon returning to his ship, he then finds a team of Jawas scavenging it for parts. After a short battle, they retreat in their sandcrawler and stun the Mandalorian unconscious of ion blasts. The Mandalorian then returns to his ship, finding it stripped bare, and all of his weaponry stolen. With the assistance of Kuil, he begrudgingly bargains with the Jawas to return his ship's parts in return for retrieving them an egg. The Mandalorian then locates a den with a large horned beast called a Mudhorn inside, which ends up throwing and battering him around in the open. With his weapons failing and his armor heavily damaged, the Mudhorn charges to finish him off. But the baby uses the Force to lift the Mudhorn, allowing the Mandalorian to stab and kill it. He then returns of the egg and the Jawas cut it open to eat the contents inside, and as promised, the Mandalorian gets his ship's parts back. He and Kuil later repair his ship, after which Kuil turns down the Mandalorian's offer of a reward and crewing his ship. Then parting ways as friends, the Mandalorian takes to space and the baby awakes for the first time after exhausting itself by using the Force. Now, I didn't think I'd be saying this so soon, but this episode is so much better than the pilot. Which, don't get me wrong, I loved the pilot, but it did have some issues like writing, for example. Meanwhile, Chapter 2 is a contained but smooth, fun ride all the way through. The cinematography is once again great and really takes advantage of the Arvala 7 landscape, and I felt the music especially was a bit stronger here too. I also thought there was less slow, or should I say boring scenes in Chapter 2 that were more prevalent in the pilot, as I seen that was something that a lot of people complained about. But really, slow pace like that is common in spaghetti westerns, and The Mandalorian is, at least in these last 2 episodes, a space western. So if anything, I think most people complaining about that just aren't fans of the spaghetti western genre. I am, so I've yet to really be bored with anything in The Mandalorian thus far. I've also seen some people complaining that Chapter 2 is still on the same planet as they want to see more different planets every single episode, but actually I saw that as a plus. I liked how we were given an excuse to stay even longer on Arvala 7, which is basically another Tatooine, as the atmosphere on that planet really fits the show. And yeah, I loved the way the show brought Jawas into the mix as part of that excuse. It's been a while since we saw Jawas in Star Wars, so seeing a new variant of them like the off-world Jawas was great. It was especially awesome too to see the Mandalorian try to take them on, but even though Jawas alone are weak and easy to beat, Jawas in large groups can pose a problem even for a Mandalorian. Moral of the story, you don't mess with Jawas. One thing that I really started laughing at was when I heard the Jawas start chanting about the egg, which in Jawese they called it a suka, and in Polish, suka means, well, the B word for the female dog. So as you can imagine, all I was hearing was a bunch of Jawas dance in excitement as they demanded a bee. So yeah, that was weird and funny at the same time. Moving on to the baby, Chapter 2 proved some of the speculation about it to be true, with the Yoda baby in fact being Force sensitive. We've already seen in the Clone Wars animated show that babies could use the Force without any Force training, but I do suspect that this baby may be even stronger in the Force, and that's why such a major bounty is on it. With Dr. Pershing seemingly working, or at the very least had worked for the Kaminoans due to his uniform, then it wouldn't be a stretch to say that he wants to maybe clone the baby. We also see more bounty hunters come out and try to hunt for the baby, which now has got me thinking. The Mandalorian is basically now seen as the good guy defending this baby from all these greedy hunters. But what about that Nikto gang? You could argue that they were also the good guys for protecting the baby from anyone trying to get near it, and in the end were defeated by 2 bounty hunters. Then again, we don't know what the Nikto gang's plans for the baby were, but yeah, still, it does make you think. Having said that, Chapter 2 didn't only answer the speculation around the baby, but the armor of the Mandalorian as well. Because in the Battle of the Mudhorn, we can see that for the most part, he actually isn't wearing a lot of Beskar armor, which in turn sees almost his whole suit get torn apart after a few minutes into the fight. Especially his chestplate, which was absolutely totaled. I do wonder now if this will encourage him to get himself a Beskar chestplate in the future, as I'd argue having a good armored chestplate is way more important than a shoulder plate like he got before. It was also very disappointing to see that Kuiil didn't agree on joining the Mandalorian's crew, as I, like I imagine most people, do really enjoy the presence of this character. But at the same time, I have a feeling we may be seeing him again later in the series, or at least I hope so. Now, my only problem with this episode was 2 short scenes we had of the Mando getting knocked off his feet and staring into the sky. The first scene during the failed invasion on the Jawas, and the second during the Mudhorn encounter. I personally felt that 2 exact scenes of this were unneeded, and one of them could have been done differently to give the same effect. Maybe have him land on his stomach in one of them instead, I don't know. Either way, it's small and my only criticism I had of this episode. Overall, another great episode in the books, and even better than the first one. At this rate, I think it's safe to say the show will only keep getting better with each next episode. And well, I wouldn't have it any other way. But that was my take on this episode of The Mandalorian. Let me know what you all thought about it in the comments down below. And if you haven't already, remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you on the next one.